The first ever criminal trial of a former president will begin March 25th. At a hearing in Manhattan today in the hush money case brought by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, with the ex-president in attendance, not because he had to be there, but because he chose to be there. Judge Juan Merchan swiftly denied Team Trump's motion to dismiss the 34 felony counts against Trump and ordered the case to go full speed ahead. Trump attorney Todd Blanche objected, calling the March 25th trial date a, quote, great injustice, complaining that Trump was, quote, put in an impossible situation given all the trials he faces. NBC News reports Merchan indicated he is not interested in hearing that the trial date is unfair, when Blanche has known it was set for months. You know about this case, Merchan said. I had made clear this was a date certain. You proceeded at your own peril. The hearing then proceeded to discuss logistics. It was decided that there will be 18 jurors, including 6 alternates. And just before the hearing wrapped, there was one last objection from Team Trump. CNN reports Trump lawyer Todd Blanche ended by saying, quote, we strenuously object to what is happening in this courtroom. The fact that President Trump is going to now spend the next 2 months working on this trial instead of out in the campaign trial running for president is something that should not happen in this country, he said. What's your legal argument? The judge asked. That's my legal argument, he responded. That's not a legal argument, Merchan said, telling lawyers he would see them on March 25th. Joining our conversation, former U.S. attorney and co-host of the #Sisters-in-Law podcast, Barbara McQuade, Lisa, Andrew, and Michael. They are all back with us. Okay, the date is one thing, right? But there was another part that is almost more interesting.
Well, I'd say the date is the most important because, you know, we're dealing with so many different cases and for so many people, it's when is there going to be accountability? And in many ways, you know, this was the first case brought, and so this is going to be the first case tried. So there's sort of equity to that. But yes, Judge Merchan decided a whole bunch of pretrial motions almost uniformly in the state's favor. The one that I found particularly interesting is a lot of people in the press, and certainly the defense here, have said these are not really serious charges, that this is something pretty minor, essentially, who cares? And the judge really disagreed in his written opinion. This came up in connection with a motion saying that you waited too long to bring this case. That's what Donald Trump's lawyer said, and the judge said no. And one of the factors is about the seriousness of the charges. And one of the things he points out is he relates the nature of the charges. I'm just looking at his opinion, and says, I completely disagree. And says that cannot find that this is not a serious case. He's like, these are severe felony charges. So this is actually the second judge who has said that. Judge Hellerstein, a federal judge who was asked to take the case federal by Donald Trump and rejected that. And he, too, said these are serious state charges. So we now have both a federal judge and a state judge saying, you know, the people who are thinking this is minor and dismissive, they may be less than the other criminal charges. I mean, but, you know, that's not a great standard in terms of, yes, these are still really serious charges that he faces. They're just not the same as overthrowing the election. But they're still going to be quite serious, and they're going to start really soon.
Or part of the reason I wanted to start there is because I think it helps explain the frustration that was very clear coming from the judge when you talk about Team Trump's antics.
Yeah, well, you heard the quotations, some of those things that you read from the CNN reporting about some of the things that Trump's lawyers were advocating. They aren't really legal arguments. They're the kinds of things that might work at a political rally or in the court of public opinion, talking about it's not fair, it's politically motivated, he won't have time to campaign. None of those are legal arguments. You know, the idea that because he's running for president, all of these cases should wait until he's done. Every defendant in America could make that argument. Yeah, I'm busy with my job. I'm busy with my family. I'm busy with school. And that's just not a basis to stop a criminal case. He is a criminal defendant, and that case needs to go forward. And so all of these arguments, you know, might sound good to supporters, but they're not going to carry the day with the judge.
Well, and as you pointed out to me, Lisa, the DA's office came ready.
Yeah, they did. And I have to say, Alicia, being there was kind of stark because unlike the federal courtrooms in which the E. Jean Carroll trial was tried, and even the ceremonial courtroom in which the New York Attorney General's civil fraud trial was held. This is the most bare bones courtroom, I would venture to say, Donald Trump has been in his post-presidential or presidential life. There's chipwood paneling, there's tape still on the walls, there are wires stuck together with bracketing, and yet, here's where we found Donald Trump today. And his lawyer, Todd Blanche, made two arguments that he was hoping would convince Judge Merchan to postpone the trial. He said, one, we have a firm trial date with Judge Cannon in Florida. That's a May 20th date. That's something we have all been discussing as a very dubious trial date, in no small part because the pre-motion calendar in that case can't be accomplished, given where we are on the schedule, by May 20th. But putting that aside, then he said, to Barb's point, between March 1st and March 25th, when you are proposing to hold this trial, there are 42 primaries and caucuses, and you would have Donald Trump off the stand. And Matthew Colangelo, for the state, stood up and very calmly just brushed both of them away. He said, yesterday they filed a pleading before Judge Cannon in which Todd Blanche himself, as a signatory, said Judge Cannon's prior orders do not suggest that the May 20th trial date is firm. And you could feel the air sort of go out of the gallery. Then Colangelo says, it's funny to me that Mr. Blanche is saying that this would be disruptive to Donald Trump's candidacy because on May 11th of 2023, shortly after Donald Trump was indicted and arraigned, Mr. Blanche wrote us an email. And that email said, in Mr. Blanche's words, if we start on March 25th, that will minimize disruption to Mr. Trump's ability to campaign. And just with 1-2 punch, they came armed and ready. And I was impressed.
Can I add
That's
to that?
pretty
point?
impressive.
Yeah.
So in the judge's decision, anticipating that, he has deals with Donald Trump making this claim about this is prejudicing me in the election. And this is what the judge says. In fact, this claim runs contrary to defendants' repeated assertions that his political campaign for president of the United States has actually been bolstered by the criminal charges. So he really turned on its head the president saying, you know what, bring it on. It's only helping me. I've only gotten stronger. He's like, great. So your claim of prejudice from this, denied.
And that's important because, you know, throughout all of this, I think a lot of Americans have been sitting there wondering, you know, will the courts be manipulated? And could they be manipulated in a way to foster the very thing that Donald Trump wanted to have them ultimately do, and that is delay, delay, delay. And now what the judge is doing, well, let's go back and see what counsel said, right? Let's hear what Donald Trump said. And so you have Trump out here bragging about how this is really helping him. You have polling evidence from independent sources, if the judge really wants to go there, that will confirm that. And now you have within the court itself, the judge turning back the argument on his attorneys. And I think it says a lot about how this could play itself out. You know, I think some of the initial concern that even folks like me had about this, I'm like, you know, these guys are just going to get punked and they're going to wind up bending over and giving Trump exactly what he wants. They're actually, you know, there's a pathway here. And I think it's being lit by the judges and not by Donald Trump. And that's important for the American people to see.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put EVAC on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
So, come on, what is it now, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah, I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who is the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They will defeat it on our world, and we will defeat them here.
The Megatron.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
base is staying intact. They appear to be after the All-Star break.
Celebration. The amateurs for suicide mission.